everyone. It's JL Rothstein here, author of the Heaven Sent series. Welcome to my segment 3 Questions With. You can find my book Atonement on Amazon or go to my website at jlrothstein.com. I'm super excited. I have Jessica Cantwell with me today. Welcome to the show, Jessica.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here.
I am so excited to talk to you today. Jessica and I are Instagram friends. I don't have all that many Instagram friends on my show. I don't know why. I keep asking people, come on the show, come on the show. I have a whole bunch of Twitter people, but Jessica is an Instagram friend, so I'm super excited. You're only my second Instagram friend. I had Todd Hiller on the show, and you are only my second Instagram friend. So hopefully people see this and say, hey, yep, I got to get out there. I got to get on Jen's show. But you are the author of the Realm series, and you have 2 books out in that series now. So go ahead and tell the audience a little bit about it.
Okay, Realm it's going to be a trilogy. There's 2 books out now. I'm in the middle of finishing book 3. It is a young adult fantasy series. I'll show you the cover right here.
Yay, yes, cover reveals.
This is called The Adventures of Lily Monroe, and it's about a troubled, melancholy teenager who just isn't having the greatest life, and she finds herself pulled into an alternate dimension. There she's got this family that she didn't know existed, and this alternate dimension it's Earth, but it's another form of Earth. So it's not taking you to a new world. It's actually, Earth with its continents and the layout. But in Realm, there are mythological creatures and people who have superhuman powers. So she learns all of this. But what she finds is that her father is trapped, and her brother brings her there to help him find him and free him. And so they go on this big adventure, and you kind of leave on a cliffhanger.
Ooh, a cliffhanger for book 1. That is very adventurous.
Yep, which takes you right into book 2. They find out, I'll show you the cover for that.
These are beautiful covers, by the way. I know Zoom probably isn't doing them justice, but they're gorgeous.
I absolutely love them. And this one's called Ruler of the People, God of Death. And Lily finds out that her father was actually imprisoned for killing the queen of Realm. So now they're wanted by the king, and they're being hunted. So you go on another adventure with them to find out what's going on.
So what was the inspiration for writing these?
So I wrote these back in like 2010. Yeah. My kids were really little. I was focused on screenplays at the time.
Oh, okay.
And I had just finished a screenplay about animated fire trucks. And I thought, I really should maybe take this and put it into some of my work, and put it into a book, because not like screenplays are easy to get recognized. You can publish your own book.
Nothing's easy to get recognized. Writing isn't, screenplays aren't, none of it is.
None of it is, but at least you can publish your own book.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is I kind of had this idea, just playing around with it in my mind. And my daughter was really little at the time, and we were, playing Barbie, and she has this Christmas Barbie who has this like long platinum hair and these beautiful aquamarine eyes. And that's actually what my main character, Lily, her attributes are based on that Barbie doll, which is really funny.
Well, it's funny how creativity strikes, and where it strikes, it doesn't always make sense. And then later you put these little things in and you tell people about those little nuggets, and people are like, oh, wow, really? Like that right at that moment, you're like, oh, you know what? I could write a character that looked like this, and that moment somehow cemented with you and stayed with you and made it all the way through to the main character of your book. So that's amazing. So we are going to go right into your questions. So Jessica and I were chit-chatting a little bit beforehand, and we've talked on Instagram quite a bit about her MS diagnosis, and which many people who are watching the show right now know that I also have MS. So this was something I was super excited to be able to talk to Jessica about. So tell us a little bit about your MS diagnosis and how that affects you as a writer.
Sure. I was diagnosed 6 years ago. last month. But knowing what I know now, because you kind of
Oh
figure
yeah.
it out a little bit later, I had symptoms right after the birth of my first child 16
Mhm.
years ago. And it just started with tingling in my back. At the time, I was working a desk job. And, when you go to the doctor, it's like, oh, you just had a
Yeah,
baby,
get
you're
up
sitting too
more.
long, get up, move around, that kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And I was a little stubborn, like, no, like something's going on. This isn't normal.
Hmm.
And then that went into x-rays, and you have a kidney stone, and
Gosh, that's
nothing,
really far off
nothing,
the mark. Yep.
yeah, no, nothing came of it. So I was really, it's a little disappointing. So it was kind of like, when the medical professionals are telling you, it's nothing,
Yeah.
you listen to that. I had another kind of similar experience after the birth of my daughter. And then I was fine for a really long time. I was working a very stressful job at a school. And, it's like a petri dish. So you're always getting
Oh
sick.
yeah.
And I got like a bacterial infection, a viral infection at the same time. And then the next thing you know, like a week later when I got better, my legs were rubber. I
Yeah.
call them spaghetti legs.
Yep.
You start walking, and then the next thing you know, you feel like somebody's tied your shoelaces together, and
Hmm.
you can't walk, and you're a little dizzy, and your balance is off. And I thought, this is not right.
Extreme for an infection. Yeah.
Yeah, this isn't right. This is
Yeah.
weird. Maybe it's just I'm tired. I don't know. But after going shopping at a mall one day, and then my legs just stopped working, I thought, okay,
Yeah.
it's time to call a new doctor.
Yeah.
So I did, and that led to my diagnosis.
Now,
My
somewhere
MS.
along the line, I'm assuming they sent you for an MRI. It wasn't just the
Oh
symptoms.
yeah,
Somewhere along the line, the new doctor sent you up for an
it
MRI.
it's 3 MRIs. Actually, really kind of more, because you're doing with contrast, without
Yeah. Yeah.
contrast.
Yeah.
You can't get it
Yep.
all done at once. You're doing the I can't remember what that's called, where they do the test of the electrical
The
shock.
spinal fluid. Oh,
Oh,
an ECG. Yeah.
yep, they did
Yep.
that. They do the spinal tap, everything,
Yep.
the whole kit and caboodle. Yeah.
Did you have lesions when they did the MRI with the contrast?
Nothing new, nothing fresh.
Yep.
It had all kind of been there by the time I had the MRI, so nothing lit up like Christmas lights.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was old. And I started Tecfidera, a drug that didn't really sit well with my stomach or
Yep.
flushing. And last year I ended up having a new lesion. And so that made me go to another doctor. And then I had to go through the rounds of testing again, because she is not only a neurologist, but an MS specialist. And my MS was presenting weirdly. She thought maybe it was like NMO or Lyme's disease.
Mm.
So, it was wonderful to go through all those tests again. Plus
I do
more.
feel like, I mean, I will say, I do feel like when you go to a new doctor, because I have, I've had it for a longer time, right? Like, I'm, coming up on my 20-year anniversary in 2021. And I've switched doctors, but I feel like they always want to reset the baseline for themselves. Like, I remember when I first went to the doctor that I have now, it was like, we're going to send you for MRIs. And I was like, I just had them. Like, I'll get them for you. And it was like, oh no, we got to reset a baseline, because our equipment is different than their equipment. It's like, you
Our
don't know
equipment
how.
is better than theirs. Yeah.
I was
Oh,
like, I don't know if that's actually true, but I guess they want to feel good about the fact that they have some new reset baseline for them to watch on their equipment. But it is an awful lot to put a patient through to have them go and redo that whole series of tests again.
yeah, it really is. MS, they call the snowflake disease, because everybody is different.
I
Everybody.
haven't heard it called that, but that's very
Yeah.
that's very interesting. But it is one of those things where they can't definitively, when you walk in with symptoms, say, oh, this is MS, because it could also be this, or this. And
Yeah.
it ends up being one of those diseases that sometimes people get diagnosed with it for lack of something else. I mean, there are a group group of people, like a pool of people that have like 1 out of the 3 or 2 out of the 3. So for people watching with MS, it's like they want the spinal tap fluid to have that genome thing in it.
Yeah.
They want you to have lesions, or not want you, but they're looking for lesions along your spinal tap or along your spinal cord or your brain, and the symptoms. So they look at it like, if you have 3 out of the 3, then you can be definitively diagnosed.
Right.
If you have 1 out of the 3 or 2 out of the 3, you can be diagnosed, but not definitively, which unfortunately for those patients have just a terrible time, with health insurance, because it's like, well,
Yeah.
you're not definitively diagnosed, so therefore we won't pay for your walker. I mean, it's a nightmare, but
It is.
just in saying that, the definitive diagnosis people, I guess they can feel like, oh yeah, I have it. But for these poor other people in this pool that have symptoms but nothing else, or have lesions but no symptom, it's really kind of a nightmare for them.
It is. And for me, my symptoms are, loss of balance. No more high heels for me. And, the spaghetti legs, the weakness in the legs, and also the brain fog, which is what plays a huge role in writing, being an author is, and for my brain fog, which I'm sure a lot of other people experience, it kind of has 2 parts. The first part is I'll have this perfect sentence in my head or paragraph, whether I'm speaking or I'm writing. And then when I go to say it, it comes out backwards, and I sound like Yoda a little bit. It's kind of jumbled up. So there's a lot of laughing. Of course, when I'm saying it, I can't correct myself. But when I'm writing, I can go back and I can, reread and go, whoa, what happened there? And then the second part is just having this word, right on the tip of your tongue, and then poof. It just vanishes. And then you have to sit there and do these exercises to try to get that word back. Like, okay, it means this. It sounded like that. I was describing this. And then sometimes it doesn't come back, and I have to, even scream to my husband, what is that word I'm thinking of? Or I need to, use a thesaurus or a dictionary to try to hunt that word back down. And then it's like, oh, how silly. The word was truck. How did I forget that? So those are the 2 things that I struggle with the most with my MS and writing, is that brain fog getting in the way.
So I have brain fog, I guess, in a different area. So I remember, I'm an accountant by trade. So that's what I went to school for. And I've been managing accounting departments for, over 15 years now. But I remember when I was younger, I could add large sets of numbers in my head, like as part of like what accountants do all the time, like being able to look at a financial statement and be like, that bottom line's wrong, or this number over here isn't right, or like you could pinpoint in. It was almost like just, from having done it a long time. Or, you'd have large sets of numbers and somebody be off by like 9, and you'd be like, oh, it's this one. It's this number here is backwards. Like I used to be able to do that like that when I was in my 20s. And, when the MS started to affect me, and again, like you, I was getting symptoms in college, but I blew them off because I was like, oh, I'm out of shape, or I don't exercise enough. I don't work out enough. Oh, it's poor circulation. Like, it's amazing what we'll tell ourselves in the beginning. And when there's spaces of time in between the symptoms, it's easier to do, because then you either forget that you had that, or you're like, oh, was this the same thing I had? What did I do back then to make it go away? Or what was the situation and you kind of either forget or you roll with it. And then the other thing is the next symptom might be different than the first symptom. So now you're not linking them together. So by the time I went, and I, like you, I had a really stressful job at the time. And I was recently married and already having problems in that in that marriage. And so I had stressful things going on personally, and I had an extremely stressful job, and I was sort of climbing up the corporate ladder, if you will. So they blew that off as stress immediately. Like I went in and was explaining like different things, and they were like, you're too young for this, and they did blood work, but they were like, like, I think the first one they wanted to rule out was Legionnaire's disease. And I was like, what? I don't even know what that is, but it doesn't sound real. Like, I was like, I'm just telling you, I have tingling. Like, I can't feel my hands and feet. Like, I don't, it's like my hands fell asleep and I
Yeah.
cannot wake them up. Like, I can't get them to the point where they go past the tingling. And I remember, like, he got to the point where I had said something to this person recently. I had told them this story because it's so different now. Now they diagnose, they don't eliminate you for age. They don't tell somebody that comes in with MS problems that they're too young to have that illness. Now they can diagnose people in high school and earlier. But I remember him saying to me, "You're not even 30. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you're much too young to have all these things. And what you're describing, you'd be amazed what the body will do with stress. So, okay, after being insistent, like after going multiple times and saying, I know this sounds, I know you're looking at me like I'm crazy, but I know my own body and this is not normal, right? Because then what happens over time is the symptoms become more regular and you get them more frequently. Now your mind is like, oh, wait a minute. It hasn't been 6 months, it's been 2 months or whatever. And I know everyone is different, but I was sort of my own, you have to be too. I was sort of my own best advocate. You have to be like that. If you're watching this and you've had this experience or this is new or you're going through it, like no one else is going to go in that doctor's office and advocate for you. You have to do it. If you know this is not normal for your body, you have to stick up for yourself and really put pressure and say, no, this is not normal. This is not right. And I'll never forget, he said, fine, I'll send you to a neurologist. They'll send you for an MRI, but in exchange, you have to see a therapist. And now I look back on that and I think that guy probably got sued later. And
my goodness.
And I only went back once just for the point.
Therapist.
Like to tell him, like, to have that moment where it was like, yeah, now who's got the problem type of thing. And it ended up being fine. And I went to that therapist. I made that agreement. I would have made any agreement to get further testing, to get whatever. Yeah. And I went to that therapist and I was glad I did, because then when I was diagnosed, I needed it. Like I needed to talk to somebody. And so it ended up being a good thing. There's no shame in that. And I don't say it in a negative way. It ended up being good for me. But to make someone feel like that at that moment, it's just so wrong on so many levels. And I ended up talking about it now because it's like, if you're going through this, there's no shame. You know yourself. You know what is normal. You know what isn't normal. Like, make sure that you keep going until you get that diagnosis, even if you have to switch doctors and go through the pain of what we were just describing, which is a reset of, initial blood tests and x-rays and ECG, which I don't know about you, but I found very painful. The leads in your head and your hands where they zap you. And
that's just not fun. Neither is the spinal tap, that headache afterwards.
Yeah, horrible. But if you get the right diagnosis and then you can start getting treated, you can look back on it and say, oh, now that it was all worth it. But I think back to that time and I think, I hope it's different now, right? Because it's been, like I said, 19 years. And I think to myself, I hope it's different now. But I don't know, maybe there still are people out there that are having to really fight for that diagnosis, that are having to really fight to be taken seriously, especially if they're younger.
The physician, like I said, the first physician was like, it's this, it could be anything. I don't think it's anything. It could be trauma, and then the second one was like, whoa, like,
wait a minute, what are those symptoms? Like,
need to fast track you right to. So if you don't hear, like, if you're
was your second doctor a neurologist? Was your second like, were they both neurologists or was they just doctors?
Just regular family practitioners, because that's usually the first step that you do. And the first one I was completely blown off by, and then the second was like, well, but honestly, I do, guilty as charged, I do the stupid thing of like putting everything in WebMD or something and do online. So
you go in with your piece of paper. Hey, this piece of paper says.
But all of my symptoms did, like, that was the number one thing that came up is MS. So I kind of was like, I think we need to,
Yeah.
I think it might be this. And
you were directing me.
Which,
You were
I mean,
directing the docs. The second for me was a neurologist. And I feel like when I said that, I was like, okay, I took it very seriously and sent me for an MRI right away. So
yeah.
I can see my internet is being cranky. So
Yeah, it's
apologies for that. But it's overcast today and a little windy. And anytime it's kind of yucky like that, the internet's like, yeah, I'm not working today. Like it's windy and it's cloudy outside. And yeah, it's not going on well.
And of course, the
So
kids
anyway, so let's move on. Oh, yes, you got kids home today, which is,
going to be like,
well,
what?
a lot of people have.
Internet?
I can't do anything without the internet. I can't do anything without the internet. I don't blame them for feeling that way. But let's move on to some of your other questions about writing, because that's why we're on the show. So you answered how it sort of affects your writing and how you have that brain fog and how you get past, how you have to work at that and get past that. So what do you think you'd be doing if you weren't a writer?
Well, so I am a licensed cosmetologist. I was a hairdresser for years. And had to hang up the shears, when I got the MS diagnosis. There's no way I could stand all day. I moved into desk jobs, and even though I am great at organizing and I'm very smart, those aren't for me. I definitely need, I need to be creative. It's just, it's me. It's what I need to do. And the one thing that I've always wanted to do is open my own business. And so I'm actually starting that right now.
Ooh.
I'm really excited because, being an indie author doesn't always pay the bills. So there has to be something else going on. So I'm opening a little online store, making jewelry like you see right here with
pretty
glass, candles. I have some candles that actually are inspired by characters from my book.
Oh, cool.
I'm making, crowns and ornaments and all kinds of things. And I'm hoping to open that within the next month, hopefully before the holidays. But my main goal is hopefully, to start small, and hopefully it'll be successful enough to open a store, an actual storefront. I live in a resort town, so it's very expensive here to kind of get that real estate. But if I could move into that, I'd really like to do that, have the store and put an indie author book like nook in there and sell some of these amazing books that I like, that I'm writing, that you're writing, that don't get that mainstreaming bookstore, and kind of get those on the shelves. So that's the goal, is start off with my own store and kind of hopefully move up if I'm successful.
Yeah, I mean, cosmetology school, all that's a creative, that is a creative field. So, I mean, it's not really surprising that you're still seeking ways to be creative, that obviously you're a creative person, you're writing fiction and you're creating worlds, and you came from cosmetology, which is a very creative field. And now you're going into this, which is jewelry and candles and starting your own business, but it's creative. You're thinking about things to do that are creative. So, that comes through no matter what we're doing, but that's super exciting. Can't wait to hear more about that. I hope that you're able to do that. I know my girlfriend wanted to open an indie bookstore, and she started online, and then when, obviously this is pre-COVID, but she did a lot of the pop-up things. She would do a pop-up store here, she would do a pop-up store here, and it really wasn't very long before she was able to get a brick and mortar store. But that is the best way to kind of go about that, is to kind of, you have your time to sort of feel it out and work out all the kinks, and then do a couple of the stores and see what people like, and then go into a brick and mortar store. But yeah, whenever you're in a resort town, the real estate is outrageous. But best of luck on that. That is super exciting. I can't wait to hear more about that. So hopefully you'll keep writing. Even if you have your own business, you just keep at it and keep writing. So tell us what helps you stay motivated. Do you think it's that creativity, that longing to be creative, that helps you to keep motivated and keep writing?
Oh, definitely. There's definitely that. I have this super, active imagination. I'm stubborn, so I'm not going to fold in the towel anytime soon. Even if nobody reads what I write, I'm still going to write.
Yep.
And my family, my husband and my 2 kids, they're so proud of me all the time for everything that I do. And they're just great cheerleaders. And they really just push me to, if I am procrastinating or I kind of feel down, they're like, oh, just do it. You can do it. And then this year I joined Instagram, and gosh, the writing community is it's amazing. So if you really feel like you're doubting yourself or you have questions or you're feeling down, you just throw something up there and you just get this overwhelming amount of love and support back. So between all of that, I definitely, that keeps me moving, keeps me going.
Are you out on Twitter?
I am on Twitter. I'm new to Twitter. Twitter to me is kind of like the TJ Maxx type of social media, and I find it a little bit confusing. I haven't quite figured it out yet, where like Instagram and Facebook are very clean formatted and easy for me to kind of figure out. So I'm learning Twitter, and I just got started maybe like a month ago. So
well, I remember, and I've said this so many times on this show, people probably who have watched others are probably about to laugh, but I thought Twitter was like the wild, wild west. I wanted nothing to do with it. It was like where people went to have like brawls, and I just like, not a space for me and didn't want to do it. And you talk about the indie community and the writing community on Instagram. To me, it exists like that on Twitter, but it's magnified. It's so much more. Like Twitter is crazy with maybe based on how many people are out there, but it's super supportive. And it's just been the best surprise because I never would have imagined that. And it was actually the last platform I went on because of that. But I could see like where you're sort of, you're not just a writer, but you're creative visually, you're creative in other ways, how Instagram is maybe more appealing, right? Because you can do the pictures and there's more artwork out there. And, for somebody, whether you're a photographer or you're really like, there's some of the people out there that are able to put together these beautiful images of their covers in different settings and whatnot. So for people who have that naturally or have that come naturally, it's not really surprising that Instagram is maybe more appealing or visually a space that they can see them at. I know for people that find Instagram really successful and really like it for that reason, same thing for Pinterest. If you're over at Pinterest, I haven't gone to Pinterest. I have a Pinterest account just personally, but I haven't done anything with the author. But there's a lot of authors out there who have found Pinterest to be successful for the same reasons that Instagram is, that they can sort of put mosaics almost together. And do themes like with your cover, like your covers when you're looking at your website, which by the way is Jessica Cantwell books.com. So everybody should go out there and check out your website. But I noticed on your website with your books, you can look at that cover and definitely see a theme through it. Like they're very similar. They're different, but they're similar enough that you look at them and say, this is the same author, this is the same story, the same, conceptually in there. Did you do the cover yourself or did you get an artist to do that?
No, I had an artist. It's Whimsy Book Covers. I found her on Instagram. I had originally done the covers. Actually, my son did the covers first.
That's kind of cool.
This is my third cover for these books.
Okay.
Back when I first started out, I had no money and I didn't have the talent. I didn't know how to do it. So I kind of painted pictures and we took that painting and we made the covers good enough. I sold some. I actually, I didn't know how to promote my books back then. I wasn't on Instagram. I wasn't on any kind of social media except for Facebook. You get everybody all your friends and family telling you that they're going to buy it. And then, you sell too. And you're like, okay, thank you for all the support. And then, there were some groups on Facebook. People were promoting their own books. And then after a while, it was like, okay, nobody's allowed to do that. And I thought, how am I supposed to? I don't even know. Like, how am I supposed to promote these books? It's ridiculous. And so, and then I had the MS diagnosis. So I ended up pulling everything. Yeah. And sitting on it for
waiting.
like the 5.5 years. And this year in 2020 was like the pivotal year of like, screw it.
Yeah.
So
I'm going for it. I'm going
for it. And, you know, and I joined Instagram, and my son actually was doing like graphic design. So he helped, you know, do these covers, which were adorable.
Yeah.
But they just weren't what I wanted, you know? And then, so when I was working with the cover designer, you know, she kind of sends out a questionnaire of, you know, do you have any ideas? And I was definitely, there are centaurs in all 3 of the books. I knew that I wanted the arrow, which was, you know, a very big thing for me. And then I had these elements for each book, kind of with colors that I wanted to explore. And I love the way that they came out.
Yeah, I mean, they really came out. I mean, especially next to one another, they really visually look fantastic. And it's hard to achieve. I see lots of people who have, even within a series, you know, that they don't look like they were done by the same cover artist. And maybe they weren't, but even if they aren't, a lot of times you can see a theme, or you can see something sort of trending throughout, but not everybody's able to achieve that, but they look really, really good. What about you when you go shopping in a bookstore when the COVID world is over? Hopefully we'll be able to do that. But does the cover mean that much to you? Like, does it make you stop and look for a book, or does it really not? Is it kind of just like, no, that's not enough to bring me over to the book?
I mean, I'd hate to say it, excuse me here, but you're not supposed to judge a book by its cover,
but you do.
Eye candy, so you know, yes, I do. And in a bookstore, it all depends on the presentation too, because sometimes they have books that are, you know, really out in display that they're trying to
promote.
And then others are just shoved on the shelf like a library, and you know, I feel like they're not getting much love. But when I go into a bookstore, usually I'm searching for something already. I already have an idea.
You're there for a reason, right?
Yeah, I'm there for a reason. A cover does, you know, really, it pulls me in, but mostly it's the synopsis. You know, although I feel like you need the cover, you know, the cover is what's going to make you pick it up and read that synopsis, but ultimately it's the synopsis of the book that makes me want to buy it. And I will say, this entire year, I have read nothing but indie books,
me too.
and I'm loving it. I mean, some of the books that I have read are better than the things that I have actually pulled off of a bookstore shelf. So
it surprised me. It had such a bad reputation for so long. I think it's getting better. I think over time it is getting better. But I think when it first started, it got such a bad reputation because there were a lot of authors out there that didn't show their work to anyone before putting it out, whether that was officially an editor or anybody, another writer, a librarian, a friend, whatever. They weren't doing that. And I think that, you know, there is material out there that is, you know, not as good as some of the other stuff that I've read. So it's been a little bit of a mix, but I'm happy to say there's a lot more good than bad. So I think the industry is getting better, and I think people that are very good, even though they're unagented or they're, you know, the self-published, they are able to sort of rise to the top and have their work recognized. But I think that's fairly new. I think the industry sort of got off to a bad start. You know, it was like they opened the floodgates, and through that came a lot of material that you wouldn't want to read, or that you wouldn't necessarily want to pay to read. But it definitely seems like people that are out in this world now, they take it more seriously. They look at it like a profession, which you should look at it like that. But there are definitely challenges. I mean, self-promotion is definitely the biggest challenge. I mean, you spend an awful lot of money and get nowhere. You spend an awful lot of time on social media that doesn't necessarily translate into sales. So I think when I'm talking to either aspiring authors or authors that are just getting ready to launch their first book, I always try to like sort of reset the expectation. Like, I have a huge family. Not everybody in my family bought my book. You can't expect the people who you used to work with, or who knew you, or who are on LinkedIn with you, or who work with you in the office are going to buy your book.
They're not going to buy your book.
Like,
they're not going to buy your book. They're going to go, oh, that's wonderful. I can't wait. And they're not going to buy your book.
But did you find it? Were you surprised that were there times where someone did buy your book and you weren't expecting it? Like, there have been those happy surprises for me too. It's like random person that I worked with 3 years ago bought my book, and it's like, oh my gosh, like, thank you so much. Like, it's almost shocking, right? Because you come to expect that they're not going to buy your book, and then randomly these people in your life have bought your book. But once you sort of go outside your initial circle of the people that will buy your book, it is, the promotion and getting your book out there is the most difficult part, I think.
It is.
Of the whole,
definitely, because I think from my point of view on, social media is when you see somebody that's only trying to promote their own book, right? It's kind of like force fed down your throat, and then people get turned off by that too. So you can't be like, here's my book, here's my book, here's my book, here's my book. Because
but how many people are doing that? So many people do that. It's like, stop doing that. It's like, you want to tell people to stop.
Picture your cat in there, and you got to post other things, and you have to read other people's work and show that you're, a human being, and that you're supporting other people as well. It can't all be about. So it is a tough line, because you need to promote your book, but you can't over promote your book.
Yeah, if you're always selling, it's really hard for people to get past that initial process, because a lot of people might be interested in looking at your stuff or looking at your feed or asking you a question, but they don't want the first thing out of your mouth to be, buy my book. You have to sort of be open to the fact that this could take a really long time before you actually sell any significant copies, because you have to be out there, you have to be seen, you have to maybe do some promotions, you have to maybe for a short time put your book out there for free. There's some people that have really talked to me a lot about on the website, if you're blogging, that's great, that's free content, but you might also want to consider putting other things that maybe didn't make it into the book out there, or creating new material out there for free, that before you can ask your customers to buy something, you have to give them something, right? Like, this is sort of this magic secret sauce here of, you're giving in order to get, and that's really hard for a lot of people. But I think there is this misconception that they're going to put a book out there and it's so fabulous and it's just going to do so well and it's just going to be this bestseller. And it's like, I don't know who that happens to, but I haven't met the person yet.
No.
That's happened to. I don't think that's real. I don't think that's the thing that actually happens.
It's not real. I mean, we all want to be J.K. Rowling, let's be honest, but the chances of that are.
Well, no, I'm going to make a deal with you. You and I, we're going to be the next J.K. Rowling. We're going to put it out into the universe, positive vibes, so that we can get that back in return. So I wish that for you. I wish that for all the authors that I've talked to, and I'm so appreciative of you coming onto the show and for your honesty about the MS, and for chit-chatting with me about that. I think it's really important for anybody who might be watching, who's suffering from that, and who maybe is especially newly diagnosed, who really kind of feels like the world is over for them. And I said this to somebody recently, you're not dying from that diagnosis, but the world, the life you knew it is gone,
It changes.
So
I can't jog anymore, but I'm not going to cry about that.
But you mourn it and then you get a do-over.
Yeah.
So build the life that you really want. No one's going to tell you differently. So look at it as positively as you can. So thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate it. I could have talked to you for hours, but I wish you all the success with the Realm series and with your new business. And I can't wait to hear more about it on Instagram. Everybody should go follow her on Instagram, or go to her website at jessicacantwellbooks.com and check out her series. So thanks everybody for watching. Bye for now.